What's up, everybody? Okay, real quick, is there anyone new in the house tonight? I feel like we got a lot of regulars. If you're new, do you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go. Make some noise for the new guy. Let's go. All right, so since you guys are new, this is this very new crowd, I need you guys to know something about me, okay? I am a giver. I like to give. And people call that a lot of different things. So when I'm on the court and I'm just passing a lot because I can't shoot, some people might say, man, Hunter just sucks at basketball. So he's passing all the time. But I would go, no, I'm just a giver. I think of some times when I make, bad bets and I lose some sports bets to my friends. For example, March Madness. Is anyone's bracket busted yet? Anyone? Let's go. I almost lost it when Duke was on that fringe right there. Whoo, sweating. But when I lose things like that, man, people go, man, Hunter cannot make a pick to save his life. And I go, guys, I'm just a giver. But there's some times when I offer a gift and it's not received the way I thought. Like I think of one example, the first time I asked a girl to a dance. It's homecoming, my freshman year of high school. All right, anyone feeling like the butterflies in their stomach right now? Whew, makes me sweat. And I hear this girl named Kendall likes me, and I'm like kind of intimidated by her. Like she hangs out with the older guys. I'm like, Kendall likes me? Oh my gosh. I was like, you should go ask her. So I go, all right, let's do it. And so I grab my bouquet of roses because that's like the over-the-top first ask ever. And I walk up to Kendall. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm melting. And I go, she's like talking to someone. And so I tap her on the back with all these roses and I go, hey, Kendall. And I'm about to ask her to dance. She turns around and she's laughing. And she's like, and I go, hey, Kendall, do you want to go to the dance with me? And she laughs in my face. And I'm like giving her these roses. And I'm like, well, I've kind of brought this to the table. That wasn't received quite the way I thought. I think of some other times where Spanish 2. Anyone been there? I work so hard, and I just give, and I give, and I give. And Senora Newman was just stricter than I would have liked, you know? And so when it came down to the end of the semester, I had an 89.6. And the rest of my grades were A's. And my family was like really serious about my grades. I'm like, hey, is there anything we can do to bump it up? She's like, well, Hunter, it didn't seem like you really cared about the class when you were joking around all the time. So I don't know if I can hook you up. I'm like, Senora Newman, you're killing me. And so I get this 1B plus. I have a 3.83 my first semester of high school. And I go to my dad and we have like a nice dinner. He's like, the grades talk. And I bring to the table my grades. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this to my dad. It's going to be so awesome. I've worked so hard. I'm so proud of my 3.83. I'm in honors classes. I did so good. And I go, hey, Dad, I'm really excited. I want to show you my report card. And he looks at me and he goes, man, Hunter, these grades are a joke. And I was crushed, like literally crushed. You can laugh at me like that's so devastating. But the point is, we all experience this a lot in life where we bring things to the table. Maybe it's our athletic abilities, or maybe it's a relationship, or maybe it's our school. We bring things to the table, and sometimes they aren't received the way we thought. Sometimes people love them, and sometimes people don't. And I spent a lot of my life, honestly, bringing stuff to the table that was not well received. That people were like, man, this is not good enough. I need better from you. And so I was really crushed. And when it came to my walk with God, that played in a lot. Of when I would come to God, I didn't believe in God. I wasn't raised in that. And so I'm like 15 exploring this. And I hear that God is love. But I felt this distance from God because of my sin. I go, when I come to the table, like I'm not good enough for God at all. I feel like I'm bringing everything I have and it's just a mess. It's not even a 3.83. It's like a negative 1.0, like just awful. And so I felt like God wanted nothing to do with me. And I think it's really sad that a lot of us in the room feel that way. Of like when we come to God, it's like, man, maybe we did some things over spring break that weren't ideal. Or maybe we've been trying really, really hard to follow God, but we make some mistakes and we feel like we can't pray with him. Like when I pray, I try and it's not happening. We feel like we come to the table with God and what we're bringing is not good enough. And I want to look at a passage that I think is actually really encouraging in this. And it's going to start off kind of serious, but we're going to tie the bow on it at the end. And it's about a situation really early in the Bible, Genesis 4. So everyone who's on their one-year Bible, guys, we're on the same play. Genesis 4, guys, I'm doing one chapter a month. And so here we are. And so it's about two different brothers who bring an offering to God. And one is well received and one's not. And so we'll look at it. It's the story of Cain and Abel. And so hang with me. Cool. It says, Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. How's that for a steamy start? And everyone's like, ew. She said, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. And later she gave birth to his brother Abel. So now you guys know trivia facts. Impress your friends. Adam and Eve's kids, their names are Cain and Abel. There you go. A little Bible trivia for you. It goes on. It says, now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of soil as an offering to the Lord. So what he's bringing to the table is all the crops that he's worked for. And Abel also brought an offering, a fat offering, some fat portions of some of the firstborn of his flock, and we'll unpack that in a second. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. And so Cain brings all this to the table, and God doesn't look at him with favor. And so it says he was angry and his face is downcast. If we look at that word favor, it can also be translated as like having respect or regard. But the bottom line is essentially coming to the table and God is either pleased or not pleased. And so I want to clear the air because I want all of us to come to the table and feel like God is pleased with us, because really the door is wide open and there are some things that can hold us back, and I want to get those out of the way tonight. And so we'll look at how the Lord responds. It says, then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, am I on track here? Yeah, Cain says to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Salty. The Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? I don't know, he replied. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. Lock on here. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. And so Cain brings a sacrifice to God. God is not pleased with it. Cain's salty. So he goes and he kills his brother. And then he goes before God and God curses him. And it says, Cain says to the Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. But the Lord said to him, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Okay, so a lot going on there. But there are 2 offerings. One God is pleased with and one is not. And I want to break them down. So we got Cain and Abel. And when Cain comes to the table, what we got to unpack in the context here is Cain brings God his leftovers. And so when Abel comes, he brings like this really sweet offering. But Cain is like, a little half-hearted, like scraps. I'll just kind of rummage some stuff together and just bring it before God. And it's like a big deal to meet with God. And so God is kind of like, it seems like you don't really care. It seems like you're not invested. Another thing going on here is that Cain's offering is half-hearted. And so the result is God curses him, and Cain just brings his scraps. And so I want to talk about what does this look like for us, because a lot of us feel this way. Like I have felt this way. I'm coming to God and he doesn't really care. And so I think of some examples of just following God when it's convenient. Like I just bring my scraps, and if I got nothing else going, then I'll come to StuMo. Or if I feel like it and I'm enjoying it, I'll read my Bible. But as soon as something gets difficult or I'm not in the mood, I'm out the door. Like I'm half-hearted. I'm giving God my leftovers. I think as soon as it costs us something, we're out. So I go, oh wait, I have to change the way I party, or change the way I date, or change the way I spend my time? Man, I'm out. If it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, no thank you. If I have to wake up early in the morning for Sunday church, like that's just kind of inconvenient, on and on and on. If it's cold, I don't really want to go to StuMo. And so to come to God half-hearted is to come when it's convenient, when it doesn't cost us anything. God doesn't want our scraps. He says he wants to be the king of our life. And so check this out, this statement. Jesus is not a lame sacrifice. So why would we ever think that he would want a lame sacrifice? Because when Jesus came to the table to meet with us, he didn't come half-heartedly. Like he came in epic glory. There was a scene, there's a book written about it that's been like protected for thousands of years. People talked about it. It was like shook the world by storm because he came in glory. He came and he changed the world. God didn't hold back anything. He gave his own son and even his life and suffered when he didn't have to. And so if Jesus is not a lame sacrifice, why would we expect God to want a lame sacrifice? Let's look at a couple verses that unpack this. Does anyone know the first commandment? We're doing a little Bible trivia. The first commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. And so God wants to be king, like on the throne, the number one priority in our life. And so if we come half-heartedly, he's not pleased. Another one is Revelation 3. There's a bunch of people, and this is Judgment Day, and there's a bunch of people who like didn't really live for God. We're like, yeah, I'm about it, I'll go here and there. But when it wasn't convenient, they didn't. And they stand before God. And it says right here, God looks at them and says, I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. He's not pleased with half-hearted efforts. Here's another one. We'll lighten up in a minute, I promise. Luke 14:33. This is actually one of my favorites. It says, in the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. And so a couple themes we see is anything, if we put things before God, if we won't sacrifice or give anything up to follow God, or if we're just kind of lukewarm, just half-hearted, we waffle, God is not pleased. And so I want to bring that into the year, even though that's kind of like, sucks all the hype out of spring break, right? But I want to bring that into the room so that we can avoid those things. Because the good news is like the door is wide open and God warns us so that we can experience his best. So that like Abel, we can come to God and he's thrilled and he rewards us. Think of this. Imagine the attitude if I'm at the workplace and I just bring a half-hearted effort. Like if the president of some billion-dollar corporation comes in here and goes, hey, I want to hire you to come in and work for me. And I show up late when I want to. And he gives me assignments and I go, okay, I'll like do that one, but not that one. How long do you think I would work there? Not very long. Like he would not be impressed. And so if Jesus is not a lame sacrifice, he doesn't deserve a lame sacrifice. Let's look at Abel. So Abel is the one who God responds positively. He brings a sacrifice to God and God is very pleased. And here's what's different about him. First of all is he gave God his best. And so it talks about, the verse uses the word first fruits. And so it's essentially, there was like, you have all your harvest, your animals, your crops and everything. And there's like the best, the okay stuff, and then the worst, right? And so Abel takes the very best and goes, I want to put on a show for God. I want to bring in my best. And so he brings the fat of his lamb, which is, I'm not like historical like that. That's a big deal apparently. And so he brings the fat of the lamb and God is like, ooh, this is good stuff. This is like filet mignon, ribeye, like let's go. And God loves it, right? It says God looked on him with favor. God looked at him with regard and respect and he was pleased. There's another verse. Abel is like a major character in the Bible, and so he's talked about and like praised and uplifted for his faith. And so Abel comes with faith. He's not half-hearted. So look at this verse, Hebrews 11:4. It says, by faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith, Abel still speaks even though he is dead. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. Because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and he rewards those who earnestly seek him. Abel came to God in faith. He wasn't holding anything back. And so what would this look like for us? Abel is pleasing God. He's bringing his best, his first fruits. And here's a little bonus question. Abel brought his best. God was like stoked. And then Abel actually died. And he was murdered by his brother. Interesting, right? God is so pleased. Why did that? We talked earlier about why did bad things happen to good people? And so we look at God was pleased with Abel and Abel dies. So, and chew on that one. We won't go into that too in depth today. But like, I think the point there is that God's reward and God's vision is bigger than our lives. Like, I am sure that if Hebrews thousands and thousands and thousands of years later is going, Abel is the man. Abel is regarded as righteous. God is still using him. I have a feeling that God took care of him, even though by being faithful in his life, he lost his life. Similarly, Even when we are faithful in this life, we might lose our life. Maybe not physically die, but I might lose some of the college experience that I came for. Or I might lose some toxic relationships. Or I might lose a little bit of cream on the top of my paycheck because I honored my integrity and I followed God instead of selling out for money. Like all these different things, God's reward is long term. And so what would this look like for us? There's two offerings. There's one that pleases God and there's one that's not. And so my question is, which one are you? Which one are you? Where do you fit into this story? Do you give God your leftovers or do you give God your best? Do you come half-hearted or do you come with faith where you trust him, you hear what he says and you trust and you believe? You lay down your life when it's not convenient, when it costs me something, when there might be some drama. Man, I follow God by faith. Which one are you? I hope you can be this one. I know you can be this one. And so some questions to kind of figure out where you are. If you aren't sure, here's some questions to help you. Do you use your time, your talent, and your money for God? Do you use your time, talent, and your money for God? Do you have time like for StuMo night or Sunday church that is God's, and then the rest of your time you just live your life? Like, do you kind of compartmentalize God? Are there areas of your life that you hide from God? Maybe you say, okay, well, I'm going to have this fruit for me and this fruit for me, and I'll give God this scraps. Like, I'll give God this time. Or if I like it and I'm already on board with it, yeah, I'll do that. If we get even more general, Luke 14:33 says, if God asked you for anything, would you give it to him? Would you give it to him? And so I want to challenge you tonight, be that person. Be the person who, when we hear God call, we go no matter what it costs. If it's uncomfortable, if we have to change the way we spend our weekends, if I give up a toxic dating relationship or some bad friends, I'm in. If you're the person who, man, you fall down and make some mistakes, or we struggle with sin, or we feel embarrassed or imperfect, just still come to God in faith, because he says he'll take care of us even in our sin. There's a verse I was going to go through, I didn't put it up, but Psalm 51 talks about a broken and contrite heart God will not despise. And so all these people are trying to bring like lavish sacrifices and like gold and stuff to God. God's like, I don't care about that. I see your heart. Like, you don't have faith in me. And so what's interesting is, here's one for you. It's not about how much you know, and it's not about how perfect you are. It is about, is your heart committed to God? Because if your heart is committed to God, it doesn't matter how much you know. I know people who know zip about the Bible, but man, they are all in. And guess what? You learn. And God teaches you, and it's all good. It's all love. I know people who are totally committed to Jesus, but it's like really hard to change. Like, we followed the world and like our sin for 18 years, and then we make a decision to follow God. It takes some time to transition. God is patient in that. I love how God talks about he is quick to forgive our sin. He is patient if we have faith. The big thing is our faith. And so which person are you? I think of times when we can't, like, let's talk about reading the Bible, because that's like how we grow with God, right? Reading the Bible. When I can't wrap my head around something, or like when it's frustrating and I just don't get it, do I give up, or do I press into that and press through? Because if I'm all in, if I'm committed, I'm going to press through. But sometimes we give up. I think of some people. I know a guy, I wish I had a picture of him. They call him Frat Jesus. I never met him, but he went to school at Arkansas. They literally called him Frat Jesus because he was like 24. He took a little extra time, and he had like long hair and a big beard, so he literally looked like Jesus. And he's hanging around the frat house all the time. So like, hey, what up, Frat Jesus? And this dude could have been doing a lot of other things, like maybe studying. But he would go to the fraternity house all the time to impact his friends. And so do you think a 24-year-old who's all about Jesus is like thrilled to be at a party with freshmen on a Friday night? Probably not. But he's there so he could spend life with these people and share Christ with these people and make a difference because he had faith. Because he heard what God said and he believed it. And so he gave his time, even when it wasn't convenient. A lot more time than we're giving to college. I think of a guy I know who's actually in the room. His name's Tim. And Tim is a guy, I want to give you a picture of, a lot of times we focus like really college specific or Greek life specific, but God is actually bigger than college. God is bigger than fraternity and sorority, bigger than our sports team. This is a life thing. Like faith is bigger than just this moment, this 4 or 6 years in college. And so when I look at Tim, I see a man of faith. I see a man who follows God when it's inconvenient. I see a man who, when it costs him, he gives to God. When I hang out with this guy, literally, whether it's with me or with someone else, he's always thinking about, how can I care for this person? Like, if they're in need, he's super generous with his time, his money. He'll talk your ear off, even if he's got stuff to do. Like, he's just super, super loving. He's always asking me, hey, Hunter, how can I help you? Is there any way I can serve StuMo? The dude is the man. When he's in church, like, he's not on StuMo's staff, he's not some paid minister, but when he goes to church, he's just constantly trying to bring people and invite people. When he sees someone new, he goes up and, like, welcomes them. I hear him talking all the time about his Bible study. He's like, oh, someone's new, I'm trying to give them my Bible study. What if our community here was like that? Like, what if every time someone new walked in the door, what up, homie? They got welcomed in and acknowledged. Someone went up and shook their hand and asked him, hey, if there's like some food chain that you could bring here, like, let's get silly. What would you bring? Everyone's bringing Whataburger. I'm honestly tired of it. I've had so many Honey Butter Chicken biscuits. Like, what would you bring? Or more seriously, if someone was in need, needed a ride to something, to or fro, like, we hooked each other up. If someone, I really just used that phrase. I've never said that. Why did I just say to or fro? Guys, I've been in the car for 12 hours. Like, please have mercy on me right now. It was 6 a.m. in Oklahoma this morning. We're like, time to go to StuMo now. Yeah! We get in the car, and so I'm like mumbling up here. Forgive me. But when people have like spiritual burdens or questions that are uncomfortable to talk about, what if we welcomed them in? I want to challenge you to live by faith. Give God your best. My hope is that in looking at some of these heavier verses at the beginning, that it'd be sobering. Because it's all love and like Jesus' open arms. But if we don't take him seriously, like what's up? He says there will be no other gods before me. He says if you won't give up everything you have to follow me, you can't be my disciple, period. And so it's important that we take him seriously. And when we do, and he rewards his faith. I could go on and on and on and look at all these different stories of how God rewards our faith. And his reward isn't just momentary. Like maybe we do well in this world and we have a bunch of fun at the social scene or do well financially or whatever, blah, blah. But it's even bigger. Like Abel was faithful and his life ended real quick. Maybe that day, that week, I don't know. But he is making an impact for thousands of years and for eternity. And the Bible talks about he's in heaven with God, just rejoicing forever. That is what I want over 4 years in college that are really sick. And they got hyped up over like, I forget that YouTube channel, but like about frat life, whatever. But that is better. I choose that. And I want to invite you to come with me to walk by faith. I'll share one last verse as we close. I love this one. I actually lied, I got two. Jeremiah 29:13 says, you will seek me and find me with all your heart. So if you come with all your heart, and you will find God. If you're someone in this room who's been seeking God and you haven't found him, I want to ask you, have you sought God with your whole heart? Are there areas of your life that you're just hiding? Because God either wants to be Lord of all, or he won't be Lord at all. Here's another one. It says, the eyes of the Lord search the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose what? Whose hearts are fully committed to him. And so God is literally waiting. Where is someone with faith? Where is someone with faith? And he's looking, like literally looking through all the college campuses, looking through CSU, looking through StuMo Night, and he goes, where is someone with faith so that I can strengthen them? So I can give them power to deal with their sin. So that I can give them influence to be a leader in their community and make a difference for good. God is waiting to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. You can be that person. I want to challenge you to give God your best and to live by faith. I'm going to pray and close this out. God, thank you so much for your word and the power of it, Lord, that it cuts like a sword and shows us when we're off course or in the wrong. God, so that we can correct and come back to relationship with you and joy and peace and eternal life. God, I pray for anyone in this room who feels like Cain, who feels like they come to God and they aren't good enough, feels far from you. God, I pray that you would open their eyes to see that you just want faith, God, that it's not about how much we know or how perfect we are, but when we come wholeheartedly, God, you reward us and you welcome us in. So thank you for your love and your kindness and your patience in our sin. And I pray that you would bless our community to love each other like this. In Jesus' name, amen.